as much like on that fateful January 6th day, people were saying, watch out for Nick Bosa.
Where Riley Reed Patterson is able to slot it between the legs, and Duval County is jagging off with a win, 31-30.
The Seahawks were blown up into smithereens from a drone strike by Barack Purdy Obama.
I think I heard like a report that Chief Saholic is out of jail and he's going to be at this game.
If Damar Hamlin is thrown through a table, then I think all bets are off. I think that actually even trumps the too much emotion card if Damar Hamlin is thrown through a table. Then I would switch my
makes you wonder what Hitler
wild story. And it's Tusk's ass he died in vain.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode 46, the Joe Biden episode, some would call it, and most importantly, the Wildcard Weekend recap episode, where we will recap all 6 games from Wildcard Weekend and also preview the 4 upcoming, some really important and cool games in Divisional round. We'll also talk Fantasy Corner, where we will have our Stardom, Sit-'em, and Sleepers, and then hopefully at the end of the episode, we'll just kind of vibe a little bit, so and get you set up for another great weekend of football, playoff football. Cam, I'm Luke, and Cam, you want to start us off with the Wildcard Weekend rundown?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Playoffs, Luke. Playoffs, baby. So here we go. We start off the postseason with Super Wild Card Weekend and in an in-division matchup between Gino and Brock, Mr. Irrelevant, and Kyle Big Brain Shanahan were big favorites in this one. But Gino and DK were looking to pull off the huge upset, and after a bomb connection late in the second quarter, the 49ers were still going to head into the locker room with a lead. But wait, Jimmy Carter Ward spears the sliding QB and give the Seahawks a free field goal before the half. But in the second half, it began to fall apart as Kyle Shanahan put his Brock in the hole on the goal line to retake the lead. And after a good retaliation drive by the Seahawks, it ended in a bad way, as much like on that fateful January 6th day, people were saying, watch out for Nick Bosa, as he got the strip sack and fumble recovery. Things unraveled from that point, and the Seahawks were blown up into smithereens from a drone strike by Barack Purdy Obama to Deebo Samuel for a 47-yard touchdown. And the Santa Clarans went home happy as they move on and sweep the Seahawks with ease, 41-23.
All right, and next we head to Duval for an absolute stadium party on Saturday night for a fun battle between the San Diego Superchargers and the Jags. From the jump, the Chargers dominated on all fronts with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 first-half picks, 3 of them to Asante Samuel Jr., and most of them really, really bad. And other stupid mistakes on defense and special teams, including a doink off the helmet of a Jags player. Jags fans were left wondering if this miracle run was Trover, but the people forgot that Trevor Lawrence has never lost on a Saturday, and a touchdown before half gave them the spark they needed. And just when everyone thought the Chargers-Chiefs rematch would happen, the real Chargers showed up. The Jags slowly crept back in while they were keeping up with the Joneses, as both Marvin and Zay caught touchdowns to get the Jags within 10 at the end of the third quarter. With 9 minutes left to go in the game, Brandon Staley stuck to his aggressive roots and went for it on 4th and short on the border of the red zone. Oh, wait, Cam, that was actually a lie. He actually sent out the kicker to miss a field goal. Then the Fighting Dogs led a drive to bring it within a score and were aided by a Joey Bosa anger outing and able to go for 2 to make it just a 2-point game. After the Jags force a 3-and-out, Doug Peterson pulls some 1960s trickery out of his hat on 4th and 1 to get into field goal range, where Riley Reed Patterson is able to slot it between the legs, and Duval County is jagging off with a win, 31-30 over the Chargers. What a Saturday.
After a good night's sleep, we headed up to Buffalo, New York, where the Bills took on divisional rival, the Dolphins. It was what expected to be a blowout. The Bills were showing why they were preseason favorites, getting out to a quick 17-0 lead just like that. And just when all hope seemed to be lost, Josh Allen committed his first of 3 turnovers and channeled his inner Black Air Force energy and proceeded to start a fight for no reason. After a pair of field goals, Brett Favre tried to give the Bills some extra points before the half, but ended up throwing a pick and giving the Dolphins an easy tutty. Out of the gate, the Dolphins' DM Bradley used his chub to knock the ball out of Allen's hands, and the Dolphins took it back for a touchdown and the lead. But that was the strike that woke the beast, as Cole Beasley receives a shot from Josh Allen, the first shot he has ever gotten. And Big Game Gabe also helped extend the lead. But Miami wasn't done yet, as Mike McDaniel vaped up a touchdown drive to bring the Dolphins within 4. However, in the 4th, the Daniel in his name turned into McCarthy as the game clock was completely forgotten about by the Dolphins head coach. As the offensive time and time again was battling the ticking play clock, and on 4th and 1 from midfield, the clock finally struck midnight and a delay of game was taken to end Miami's great season. Bills survive the Skyler attack and a few Tony Romo, I don't know, Jims, and advance with a 34-31 victory.
And next, we head up to the bank in Minnesota, where the fans' vibes were high and the skull chants were fired up and ready. Kurt got the boys going with an opening drive touchdown, but after that, it was the Daniel Dime show, and Playoff Dan rushed and passed all over the Vikings defense. Saquon got in some early action as well, channeling the Penn State days for a 28-yard touchdown to tie up the game. However, Daniel became Dan today, as Mr. Jones was showing his maturity and grit. After a 20-play, 10-minute field goal drive by the Giants, the Vikings were able to battle back and make it a 3-point game before halftime. But Big Ball Daboll left no room for a comeback as Daniel Cody Bellinger caught a touchdown to extend the lead on the opening second-half drive. But Playoff Kirk had other ideas, finding hard-working wide receiver Adam Thielen for some big gains. And before we knew it, we had a tie game entering the 4th. While Victor Cruz, Odell Beckham, and Plaxico Burress are long retired, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, and Richie James took their role, balling out for their QB. But Daniel Jones said, no more Mr. Nice Guy, as he led a go-ahead touchdown drive. And with the game on the line and the Vikings needing a touchdown to keep their season alive, TJ Hawkinson made some big catches. And after a Dexter Lawrence tackle on Kirk Cousins while he had the ball, the ref said, you can't do that. And had Kirk saying, you like that? After a horrible roughing the passer penalty. But fate always wins out, and the ball never lies. And on 4th and 8, season on the line, Cousins throws it 5 yards short of the down marker. And Cam, listen to this. The New York Football Giants set the stage for an NFC Beast showdown next week in primetime in the divisional round, defeating the fraudulent Vikings 31-24.
Now we head to Southern Ohio for an AFC North battle between the Bengals and Ravens. The endangered Ravens were trying to extinct the Bengals from the 2022-2023 season, but the Zach Attack and Joe Cool had other plans. And while everyone thought this was going to be a blowout, we should have known that any divisional battle in the offs is going to be back and forth. Baltimore was without Lamar Jackson for another week as he battles back from his moonwalk knee injury. But the classic Burrow chase touchdown reminded groundhogs and football fans alike how unique that connection is, putting the Bungles up 9. But then Tyler, the Creator Huntley, put on a performance, and J.K. Dobbins was looking to give the Ratbirds a W by scoring a touchdown before the half to take the lead 10-9. But in a touching tribute to Puss in Boots, it was Sammy Hubbard and the Bengals who honored their final life, stopping Huntley on the goal line and returning the fumble for a whopping 98-yard score. As the Bengals were saying, get that guy some oxygen, the Ravens were saying, get that guy his money as the Lamar Jackson offseason begins. Bengals hold on and win this one 24-17.
And finally, to cap off our super wild card weekend, we find ourselves down in beautiful Tampa Bay, where it seemed just like a new era, or seemed like a new era was on the Gulf Coast skyline. And as Cowboy Cam, as he said last week, it was time for a Cowboy takeover. As Dak dual threat attack, Prescott played the best game of his NFL career to keep the haters at bay for at least another weekend. Brett Blair Walsh-Maher tried as hard as he could to prevent the Cowboys from winning, though, missing 4 straight extra points, which may be an NFL record, and sending the Cowboys into the trust issues with your kicker category and robbing us of a wild card weekend over sweep. Brady and the Byron Leftwich offense struggled mightily and couldn't get scores on the board until garbage time. And because of all this, Leftwich and 8 other Buccaneers staffers were sentenced to walk the plank. And as for Golden Boy Tom, he went ahead and sang his final swan song, singing, "Yo ho, a pirate's life is not for me." Cowboys win this one 31-14 and get their first ever road win road playoff win since 1993. And that wraps up the wild card weekend recap. And what a fun weekend that was. 5 out of the 6 overs hit.
It was.
Literally, if Brett Maher nailed one more extra point, we would have had an over sweep. All 6 of the overs would have hit. But fortunately, Brett Maher is a gambling man. He couldn't allow that. So,
and maybe the most important thing, Luke, besides that, is every single one of these games was good except for probably the Monday night game. Because in my opinion, even the Seahawks 49ers game, that game was really good up until the Geno Smith fumble. I mean, the Seahawks tied them going into half. Or no, they were up by 1, I believe, 17-16. So that was a really good game as well. And besides, when the 49ers took control, like, it was still fun to watch. Like, Debo was, going nuts, and the defense was just flying around. Was sad. Although I will say this about the Cowboys game as well. Their offense was very fun to watch as well because Dak was just on fire. And you also had the added benefit of, is Brett Maher going to miss this extra point after they score as well? So 2 fun little tidbits there in that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just trotting him out there for 5, he's missed 4 extra points and you trot him out for a 5th time. Like, that's kind of insane. Now, granted, he didn't make it on the 5th time, but that's just stupid. Just go for 2 at that point. It's not, it's not big brain. Literally, if they went for 2 every single time, they probably would have had a whole nother touchdown worth of points. Just a guesstimate on that. But there's a good chance that would have happened.
But you are advancing in the playoffs, and if your kicker knows that you still have confidence in him, then that's probably going to pay off way more than going for 2 every single time after missing 2 extra points. I will say that. So Mike still showing some trust in his kicker. And Jerry. Jerry said he's, we're rolling with Brett. We'll be fine. I think that was.
Do you see Mike in the locker room after the game with the chains? He got the chains. He was doing a little dance in the locker room after the game. That was. It kind of scares me a little bit because that's the Kirk Cousins treatment, and we saw what happened to them this weekend. So even though Kirk didn't play bad, that was the part that I think he was getting some unnecessary hate in that game. He played really good. I'm going to look up his exact stat line right now, but he didn't do anything to lose that game. People are blaming him for throwing it short on 4th down, which was stupid.
Well,
but,
that's it.
I mean,
that's all
throughout the course of the game.
Really.
Yeah, exactly. He went 31 of 39 for 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So he played a clean game. And he also had 1 rushing yard for a touchdown. So he had 3 total touchdowns in that game. I mean, that's all you can ask for had a
All
Cook in
three
that
of
game.
them.
The defense has to step up. Yeah, the defense got to step up in that one.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're today and yesterday they've been moving on from a bunch of their defensive staffers, much like the Buccaneers. It appears that Todd Bowles is not the one getting the boot. It appears that they're using guys like Byron Leftwich and the rest of the staff as their out card in terms of why this team was so bad this year instead of Todd Bowles being a bad head coach, in my opinion. If you're going to fire all those guys, I don't understand how you don't fire Todd as well. He was there just as much as them. So,
Well,
Todd Bowles,
that makes sense, but
he was on that staff, though. He was on that staff 2 years ago when Arians was the coach, and it was kind of up in the air who was going to get the job, Leftwich or Bowles, and they gave it to Bowles because the defense was stout, and he had some head coaching prior to that, which was not good either, Lucas. Actually, probably worse than this. But this was just as bad because you had a good team, lots of injuries, but he just didn't look like that guy you wanted to run through a brick wall for, Luke. I'll say that.
No, definitely not. And I think the reason they did move on from Leftwich instead of Bowles is because the defense actually played solid down the stretch and, really throughout the course of the year. Whereas the offense was the reason they didn't win more games and the reason they didn't win this game. So, I don't know if that's on Byron Leftwich. I don't know if it's on Tom Brady. I don't know if it's on just maybe the lack of talent, even though it seems like they had a lot of talent, but their offensive line was banged up severely this year. That could be a huge part of it because Tom's kind of a microwave. I mean, he is 45 years old. So, what do you expect from him?
Yeah.
But he can't move. Whether it's on the fault of Byron Leftwich, I do think Byron Leftwich is going to get hired almost immediately. And if not as the offensive play caller, he's going to have a high role in whatever team decides to hire him in their offense, I would imagine, because he was literally going to get a head coaching job last year. He was literally a lock to get the Jaguars head coach. And then he's like, well, if I'm the head coach, I don't want Trent Baalke, which their GM, he has to be fired. And Shad basically said, no, we're going to keep this guy for at least one more year. And look at it. That decision might have
paid off,
saved Jags fans in the future because they got a better hire in Doug Peterson. And I fully believe that. I remember saying, when we were previewing or when we were reviewing the staff hires, I'm pretty sure that Doug Peterson got the highest grade from me. And that I was very excited about that for Jaguars fans. And now look at it. So. Who would have expected this, though?
Yeah. We both were. I remember. Here's the thing about Doug. He's never done anything that makes you want to hate him yet. Obviously, that's all subject to change. But he never did, even when he was in Philly. So, and he won a Super Bowl in Philly. He looks like a fun guy. Guys want to play for him. And he's a little bit of a quarterback.
Well, they don't just want to play for him, but they want to die for him. Like there was literally a player that said that he would die. He would take his own life to save Doug Peterson. You know how insane that is? You have to really love a guy to do that.
Takes a lot. But back to the Buccaneers game a little bit, and their struggles on offense throughout the season. And they were, Joe and Troy were really talking about this during the game. The Buccaneers' lack of a run game, it has completely ceased to exist this season. And when it wasn't working early, they would completely abandon it and not give it any type of shot during the second half of games anyway, which it's hard to blame them when you go 7 carries, 24 yards. But in the NFL, you got to keep at it. You just have to. If you become one-dimensional, unless you're the greatest show on turf, which these guys obviously were not, you can't be one-dimensional really in the NFL as much. And that really hurt them. They couldn't run the ball. And the big thing with Tom, Luke mentioned that he was a microwave. Well, not only that, but he was, he became like check down Tom was increased heavily this year because he did not trust his protection at all this year in terms of the offensive line. And how can you? I mean, a bunch of your starters are gone. Even your regular starters have been banged up all year. They weren't able to provide enough time for Tom throughout the season. So not only was he throwing checkdowns, but if he was going to get hit on a throw and a play where they could have a big completion, a big time throw, a 20-yard plus throw, he wouldn't throw it because he was going to get hit. If he knew he had to take a hit, he was not going to throw it. And, that was kind of his downfall this year. So, and that's why I also think he's going to be leaving Tampa Bay, is because he doesn't really trust that offensive line and system anymore. And he wants to go somewhere where he does trust the system, because we obviously saw he still has the quarterback brain, and the quarterback arm has not dwindled hardly at all. So if he gets that trust back and, thinks to himself, I can sit in this pocket and make those throws, Tom might be right back to normal, Luke. So that's why I think he is leaving. And I think that's a big part of the reason why the Buccaneers struggled so much this year. Obviously, still the biggest part probably coming back is to injuries. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, Donovan Smith, he was the left tackle, I do believe, for the Buccaneers. He had a phenomenal year last year, and this year he was god-awful. Tristan Wirfs, he's still doing solid over there at the right tackle position. But Ryan Jensen, I mean, he literally tore his ACL on, the first play of training camp this year and was out the entire year. He didn't get surgery for some reason, but he came back for this game and was solid. But there's very few spots that I think would welcome in a Tom Brady. And that's why I don't think he leaves Tampa. I think they just improve that offensive line. They invest in the guard position, they invest in the left tackle position, because that's kind of an essential. That's like a package with Tom Brady, where I know a lot of people are talking about him going to the Raiders. Their offensive line isn't that great. It's old, it's aging.
No.
Now obviously San Francisco, they got a great
AFC
offensive
West.
line, yeah, that's true. You're in the AFC West, it's true. But the 49ers, they have a good offensive line. That's also Tom Brady's, growing up, that was his favorite team. But at the same time, they have enough quarterbacks on their own. They got Trey Lance, who they took with the 3rd overall pick. He's just battled injuries his entire career. He hasn't really gotten a chance. We don't know what he has. They got Brock Purdy right now, who's balling out. So with those two guys, and then you also have Jimmy G, which I think he's a free agent after this year, actually. So he's probably not going to re-sign in San Fran. But you got those two guys. They're young, they're cheap, and they're probably ability-wise just as good as Tom Brady. So why would they bring in an old 45-year-old? And maybe the mindset, but I just don't really see that being a good fit here. And there's very few other teams I think that would take a chance. Like Seattle's a team that needs a quarterback. I don't think they do it. Houston, they need a quarterback, but Tom Brady's not going to Houston. Carolina, maybe that's a spot where Tom Brady goes. I'm sure they would welcome that in, although their offensive line isn't the greatest either. You're going to have to be running around.
No.
So that's why I think he goes back to Tampa, because it's Florida. He likes Florida. He's an old guy. Old people like Florida, warm weather. There's no income taxes. He seems to like the organization a lot. And I think he's going to come back next year more focused. Obviously, he had a lot of personal off-the-field stuff that went on this year. I think they just invest in that offensive line. He comes back. But where do you think he's going to go?
Well, and so I said that I think he is going to leave, and I still do, but I do see your points. And a couple outside points as well, Luke. Giselle and the kids are also still in Tampa Bay. Apparently they're right across the little ocean way. So, if he does
St.
move,
Petersburg,
he's moving away from his kids as well. Yes, in St. Petersburg. He's moving away from his kids as well if he does move. And I completely agree with you on the San Francisco thing. Brock Purdy is almost the cheapest quarterback you can have in the NFL due to the fact that he was drafted last and has one of the lowest salaries in the NFL at quarterback. Trey Lance is honestly costing them way more than Brock Purdy, probably 3 or 4 times as much, honestly. And this is another reason, Luke, why I don't think that's a good fit. Now, I am a believer that Kyle Shanahan has a big brain and can work with probably just about any quarterback, especially the GOAT. But his system right now that has been working very, very well in San Francisco now for a couple of years, that system involves the quarterback moving around quite a bit via play action as well and under center stuff, which, if you've been watching lately, not exactly Tom Brady's forte over the past couple of years, because as Luke mentioned, he is, like Ben was at the end of his career, a microwave. He is a microwave, and I don't even know if Tom Brady would be able to keep up that kind of play style that Shanahan's loving to run right now in San Fran. They would really have to adjust some things, which I'm not saying it wouldn't work if they adjust it, because like I said, you're combining Shanahan and Brady, 2 of the best football minds. But as of right now, that offense looks fine. And if it ain't fixed, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Luke? So that's what I think about that. Yep. The Raiders, I think it's kind of the same spot as the Buccaneers, honestly. It's a little bit worse defense, but the offensive line is probably just as bad as the Buccaneers. But if you're the Raiders, you can do the same thing. You can get Tom Brady and invest in your offensive line, which is just the same thing that the Buccaneers would be trying to do, except they wouldn't have to acquire him. He's already there, although they will have to acquire him, I guess, because he is a free agent. But
Resign.
A little different, but also kind of the same kind of thing, because you're right, their offensive line isn't that great, but he does have weapons over there. If he was to go there, he would have, in my opinion, top 2 NFL wide receiver probably still in Devontae Adams. I would only probably put Justin Jefferson ahead of him, and then I'd say Devontae Adams and probably Tyreek right now. So you have that over there, and you have a great running back if they can bring him back. And Josh Jacobs, knowing he wants to compete somewhere with the few running back years that he has left, if you get Tom Brady, you're a Super Bowl competitor. That's just how it is. That's like when LeBron goes to a new team, you're instantly a competitor, or like if Luka was to change teams, or Steph, like that. So that's a true possibility. I think maybe one of the best fits as well could be New York, the Jets, if they shore up their offensive line, because they have young offensive line pieces. They've just kind of been hurt, like Mekhi Becton and such. And that could work there, because that's the piece that they were missing this year. If they had a mediocre quarterback, they probably win 10 or 11 games, which is pretty crazy. So that's a good landing spot, in my opinion. After that, it gets a little fuzzy. It would be very weird. And I also don't think Miami's a great landing spot. He might want to go there to stay in Florida, and so that he can get involved with the ownership. But at the end of the day, you have Tua. You don't have to go spend on a super expensive quarterback for 1 more or 2 years. You have Tua. So, and doctors said that Tua, he should be like any other NFL player starting an NFL season next year if he takes the proper treatment and care of himself in this offseason. So, I don't understand the bailing on Tua. I know it's Tom Brady, but it's going to be 46-year-old Tom Brady, so.
Yeah.
And Seattle is one that I just heard of as well today, much like you. It seems Geno is, he had such a good year that he's trying to cash in, and I don't blame him. And it seems that the Seahawks might not be willing to pay that amount of money for him to cash in. So I guess that it will be an open quarterback slot as well. Texans doesn't make any sense, like you said. Titans is an interesting one if they move on from Tannehill.
Vrabel.
But I think they might also be looking to draft somebody and cut Malik Willis. I have no idea what's going to go on there, but yeah, those are probably my best landing spots. Is probably Buccaneers, Raiders, and probably Jets if I had to pick a top 3. And yet, at the end of the day, he probably won't land in
that
one of those
scenario
spots.
Makes sense. The Jets make sense, but it's just weird. As many years as he spent in Boston, just to go to the Jets would be very, very weird. But then he'd be competing against Bill twice a year, so we could really see who's the top dog. But yeah, the Jets, football wise, that might make the most sense because they got a young offensive line. Their defense is amazing. They have some young weapons at receiver with Garrett Wilson. He's a stud. They got the white scrappy receiver.
Yeah.
Braxton Berrios. He's literally like
they have a wide receiver.
He's literally like the Wes Welker, the Julian Edelman, the Scotty Miller of the Jets. I mean, it's literally the perfect Brady team, but it's the Jets. So who knows? But it's going to be a very interesting QB offseason with Lamar, one of the top young quarterbacks in the game. He's actually the same age as the college football national champion quarterback. So that's a young quarterback. And let me just tell you that right there. And then you got Tom, the greatest of all time. And then you got Geno, who kind of a coveted guy coming out of college, but never really panned out. And then this year he balled out. So I don't know. I think Geno will go back to Seattle. I think that was just kind of a perfect fit. I don't know. I feel like he might be willing to take a little bit more of a pay cut to stay with Seattle just because he had such a good year there, but I don't know. Before we preview the divisional round, you got anything you want to talk about with the other games? I think it's worth talking about the Jags.
Yeah, I do too.
That was
one of the craziest things I've seen. But at the end of the day, all of Twitter and everybody's brain was thinking it at halftime when it was only 27-0, and it very well could have been 34 or 38. 27-7, yeah, you're right. They did score right at the end. It still doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all thinking, oh my God, they can very easily blow this lead, and they are probably going to blow this lead because that is just what they do. And the way that their offense was playing, because like I said, the score, they should have had way more points on the board. They were not capitalizing at all on the defense's takeaways, on Asante Samuel's interceptions, on that punt that bounced off the special teamer's head. They were not capitalizing at all, and that's why I'm saying it should have been at least 30 or 34 probably to 7 at half. Instead, it was 27-7, and Trevor Lawrence reverted back to Clemson. Trevor Lawrence against Alabama in the national championship game, where he was just throwing touchdowns all night long to wide open receivers.
He did
and they were wide open on some of their. He did. You're right. He did. 4 interceptions to 4 touchdowns. So you got to give it to him. But at the end of the day, this honestly, Luke, this might be more about the Chargers charging than the Jaguars making the comeback. Like, it's just an NFL staple point. And that is also why, Luke, I think that's why the Chargers should be the St. Louis Superchargers. They belong in Missouri. We are a state of misery, especially when you look at the Missouri Tigers football and basketball, especially football. Bring in another misery team of football. Bring us the St. Louis Superchargers. They would fit in perfectly, I believe, in terms of just straight up misery and finding incredible ways to lose games that you would never even think of. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, of course.
Jaguars, you still have to give it to them for coming back, though.
Yeah, the Missouri thing with Mizzou basketball and football, but then you also have the Blues, who have historically been the team like that always gets in the playoffs, and then never like makes the finals, kind of like the Vikings have been for the last 30 years or so. That's what the Blues were until they won, and then the Cardinals are very slowly creeping into that stage where they just find ways to lose in the postseason that are unimaginable. But yet, people are blaming Brandon Staley for this game, like for some of the coaching blunders, which there were some things he could have done a little bit better. But some people are blaming Justin Herbert. Some people are blaming the defense. I think there's two things here. I think it's more credit to the Jags and Doug Peterson for keeping those guys focused and ready to come back and for calling some good plays. And then if you do want to put some blame on the Chargers, I think you just blame it on them being the Chargers. It's as simple as that. Like, they have a curse. Exactly. I don't know who cursed them, but somebody cursed them. Like, the owner of the Chargers must have made a deal with the devil. And it was like, all right, you can have a franchise quarterback forever. Like, from quarterback to quarterback, from Dan Fouts to Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert, you're always going to have a really good quarterback that's going to keep your team in the hunt always, but you're never going to do anything, and you're always going to choke. They might have made a deal with the devil to do that, and they are just forever cursed. That's all I got to say about it.
And it's pretty sad to watch unfold on live television. Not unexpected, but that doesn't mean it's not sad to watch on live television, especially when you expect it. It's almost sadder when you expect it. So, honestly, at the end of the day, Justin Herbert only score. I know it's the NFL and defenses can just step up sometimes, but when, if you want to be considered even top 5, Justin Herbert's got to be able to put up more than 3 points, and he's got to be able to get a first down to seal the game at the end there. He wasn't able to do that. So he's got a little ways to go, I think, maybe now. I think people were all coming down to earth about him a little bit. He's still got crazy arm talent and accuracy, and he has the dog in him. He still does. There's no question about that. It's just, the dog hasn't been able to win as much, though. So he's still got it, though. But, yeah, I was going to be happy either way, whoever won. I was more pulling for the Chargers, I think I said last week. But I'm fine with the Jacksonville Chiefs matchup. I think it's good colors once again, and it's fun football.
Yeah, exactly. And so we can move into the divisional round if you want here. In Wild Card Weekend, all 6 of the matchups were rematches from some point in the year, like all of those teams that already played each other. And we have the same exact situation here, except I don't know if the 49ers and Cowboys played each other. That may be the one difference. But the Jaguars and Chiefs, we can start off there. It's the early game on Saturday afternoon in Arrowhead Stadium. Patrick Mahomes and the boys are going to be humming. And the Jags are going to be jagging off. But I think I heard a report that Chiefsaholic is out of jail and he's going to be at this game. Is that true?
I have not seen that.
Please.
Wow. That's a big – hold on. I'm doing a little research on that real quick.
I just saw something on the internet. Cannot confirm if it's true or not, but it's sweet. I don't see
anything. Nothing that says he's out of jail. I'm gonna check his Twitter.
It's an interesting matchup between. It's 2 interesting coaches. They're very fun coaches, very interesting offensive-minded coaches, and they also both worked for the Eagles and coached the Eagles at some point earlier in their past. Andy Reid brought them to a Super Bowl, and Doug Peterson won them a Super Bowl. So now these guys are battling it out to go to the AFC Championship. And I know we did like the picks last week. You just got to pick the Chiefs here. The Chiefs are at home. They're the better team. The Jags are giving off like miracle run vibes. But Trevor Lawrence, he's never lost on a Saturday either. That's the thing. That stat, I don't know. He throughout his entire college career, high school career, never lost on a Saturday, which is very, very interesting to say the least. You know how many games he's played on Saturday. But I feel like now that stat is coming to life, like more people are finding out about that stat. Like as soon as it gets publicized and people know about it, it tends to die. Kind of like the coin with the Jets earlier this year. Whenever like it started being publicized, I remember you picked accordingly to the coin, and I vetoed it because I was like, no. Once the trend becomes public, it dies. So that's what I'm getting from the vibes in this game. That's about all I got. It's my preview.
Okay. I have an update. Chiefsaholic is not out of jail. It's just his trial is tomorrow. But there is another development into this, Luke. I believe the trial is being held in Tulsa for some reason. I guess I don't know if that's where the bank he robbed or close to where the bank he robbed.
It was in Oklahoma. So
here's the thing, Luke.
Sense.
Okay, thank you for that. There is a gathering of Chiefs fans on Twitter that seem to be calling into work on this fine Friday tomorrow to call in sick to tailgate Chiefsaholic's trial tomorrow before his trial. So we have a double game day situation, which could be problematic for some Chiefs fans. A double game day type situation, back to back, which you just don't do in football. You just don't do it. You don't have the energy for that type of thing, and injuries and all that. Well, they're going to have back to back games here. Chiefsaholic trial Friday, and then Saturday your divisional game. So big slate for Chiefs fans. I don't know if it's going to be enough to knock the Chiefs out having to play back-to-back like this, but this is a little concerning. I will say that it's making my head spin a little bit that we have Chiefs fans going to tailgate Chiefsaholic's trial. I will say that. I'm not going to say it fully surprises me, but it surprises me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to factor in too much.
You got the Chiefs winning?
Could this be the return of Jackson Mahomes this week? Is this the return of Jackson Mahomes?
I don't know. I feel like Jackson Mahomes is out of the picture at this point. I feel like Patrick just shunned him away. He's like, nah.
Because Jackson Mahomes, shout out to him, classy move by him for once, Luke.
No.
At the end of last season, I believe it was, he said, out of respect for his brother, he would step away next season for the regular season games. Regular season's over, Luke. He might be in town to watch his big bro play at the stadium. So we have a couple of moving pieces here in the Chiefs universe here. We have the game and the comeback kids and the Jaguars. We have Chiefsaholic trial tomorrow with fans in attendance. And we also have the possible return of Jackson Mahomes. So this might – look, it's the Jaguars at the end of the day. It is the Jaguars. Chiefs got a lot on their plate right now. So
that's true. Might be a little distracted.
Let's see if they go bite off more than they can chew. So – but I do have the Chiefs.
All right. And it could be a look-ahead spot as well because obviously we'll talk about that later. But anyway, the Saturday nightcap divisional matchup in the divisional round, only fitting, Giants at Philadelphia Eagles. The NFL has both the 1 seeds playing on the same day. Why not? No more Mr. Nice Guy, Daniel Dimes, going up against that Philly defense. Jalen Hurts appears to be healthy, I guess. I mean, he's still kind of got the shoulder stuff going on, but the bye week had help with that. And the Eagles are the 1 seed. They're the best team in the regular season. And I just don't see the Eagles. You know what? In order to be right all 4 games, you got to pick a random one. I said earlier in the season, I'm getting the vibes that the Eagles are not that team. They're not them. I can't even tell you why, but they're not Super Bowl contenders. Even before the 49ers came up with this massive burst, and the Eagles are the only good team in the NFC. I was thinking there's just something about this Eagles team that is inconsistent, and it's going to let them down in the playoffs. You know what they say, it's hard to beat the same team 3 times. Obviously, that saying moved to 21-14 this weekend with the 49ers beating the Seahawks for the 3rd time. I think this is the scenario where the Giants maybe avoid the sweep. And, the Giants always seem to pull some type of devil magic out of their magic hat in the playoffs. And that was with Eli Manning, but guess who's being coached by Eli Manning? Daniel Jones. So this could be a scenario where the Giants just go in and absolutely shock everyone. And it's not going to be easy. It will be close, but I have the Giants.
Oh, man. That was, out of all the games, that was going to be my upset pick as well. And for this reason, Luke.
Oh, really?
If Daniel Jones plays the same as he played last week, I think they win. Because you know how you're saying Jalen Hurts is healthy, right? Maybe healthy, maybe healthy.
Is he?
I think he's probably 70, maybe 75%, with the possibility that he's only about 65%. And if Daniel Jones, he was cooking last week. Him and Dak were cooking. So if this is what I will say. Obviously, not a very bold statement, but if Daniel Jones plays the same way that he played last week, I think they win. I just do, because he played that good. And if he can keep it up, then they're going to win. But I'll say this, Luke, and since you're going to, since you're taking the Giants, I'll take the Eagles here. This is what I'm going to say. The Eagles defense, point blank, is not the Vikings defense. And that's why I'm going to take the Eagles here. But yeah, I do. That's my favorite underdog of the divisional round as well, is the Giants. I think if Danny Dimes plays that way,
I don't know.
The Eagles are done.
Yeah. No, I don't think that he can. I just don't see him matching that performance. But also, Saquon only ran the ball 9 times last week. So you have to think that he's pretty ready to go for this week, and he's ready to be worked like a horse, I would imagine. I mean, he ran the ball 9 times. Most running backs run it probably 20 times a game. Maybe not anymore. Maybe it's 15. But for a guy like Saquon, you figure get him involved. And he had some big runs as well. So expect Saquon to have a really big game. But that Eagles, they're good. The Eagles defense is good, and that's why I was hesitant to pick the Giants. But, hey, you got to stick to the take, and that the Eagles were going to choke before the Super Bowl. That was my prediction, so got to stick with it. Everyone kind of maybe expects them to lose to the 49ers next week, but let's just get it out of the way now. Let's just have the Giants win now. And who would have thought the Giants would be in this situation at the beginning of the year? No one. Then
I'll tell you what, though. If the Giants do win and they have to play the 49ers, I will be rooting so hard for the Giants. So hard. So hard. I mean, I've told you this before. Never been a 49ers fan in my entire life. I don't hate them as much right now, but man, I would become a huge Giants fan if they play the 49ers. Now, if it's Giants-Cowboys, Cowboy Cam is returning. So I will say that. So
I don't think you got to worry about that. I do not think you have to worry about a Cowboys-Giants matchup. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't think both those teams win. But as a Packers fan, I had a great time last week when the Vikings lost. And if the 49ers lose, I will have a fantastic time because those are the two teams that have had to be eliminated. As long as those two teams were eliminated, I did not care who won the Super Bowl. Check one, the easy team per se is out, so now we just need the 49ers to lose at some point. And unfortunately, I think the Eagles are probably the best bet to do that before the Super Bowl. But two teams that could do it in the Super Bowl will be playing against each other, and this is probably the best matchup of the week, game of the week. It's certainly everyone's must-watch of the week. I'm surprised they didn't put this in Sunday night primetime at 5:30, but, I mean...
All because of the Cowboys.
You do what you got to do. So it's at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Bengals at the Bills. Maybe a little bit of injustice for the Bengals. This maybe should have been a coin toss to determine home field or be played in a neutral site like the AFC Championship game. As we all remember, these two teams were set to square it off in the second to last week of the year on Monday Night Football. Played about half a quarter, and the Bengals won 7-3 before, the Damar Hamlin, he literally collapsed on the field with a heart attack. This is a Damar Hamlin game. He's going to be there. I would imagine he's there in the stadium. He might even do this. This would be a wrap, but he might even do a walk out of the tunnel. Like if he walks out of the tunnel with the team, it's going to be really hard to see the Bengals win. Like the Bengals are a really good team. They're playing really well right now, but the Bills are playing for their guy. Bills Mafia, they're rooting for their guy, If you're talking about quarterbacks in this game, give me Joe Burrow because he's postseason Joe. He's better. I feel like he's a better quarterback. Josh Allen has a better peak, but he's got some Brett Favre in him. Well, he will just not care, and he'll just throw the ball downfield at very stupid times, throw a dumb pick. And he's been very turnover prone the second half of the year. And we saw he made 3 turnovers against the Miami Dolphins defense, who is nothing special at all. So just wait till you find out about the Bengals playoff defense. You can't even go wrong with this game. If you pick the Bengals and the Bills win, you're like, okay. If you pick the Bills and the Bengals win, okay. I'll be rooting for the Bills in this game, but I also like the Bengals, so it doesn't really matter. But this is the Bills' year. This is the Bills' year. They were preseason favorites at the beginning of the year. They're playing for their guy, their injured teammate. Josh Allen, they're going to step up. I see the Bills winning the Super Bowl, but in this game, I can't pick against the Bengals right now. So give me the Bengals. They're pissed off that they're getting treated unfairly here in this matchup.
I thought you were going to take the Bills after you said the Damar Hamlin thing because my pick is the Bungles. I'm going with the Bungles, and I'm going with this logic. Kirk Herbstreit always said on NCAA 14, he always says it, and he always says it in real life as well. Luke, sometimes you get too psyched up for a game. Sometimes there's a little bit too much emotion involved. I think that's what happens. And I think you've probably started to realize this as well. I'm not the biggest Josh Allen believer, and I'm going to spew the same stuff that you just spewed. He's very turnover prone. His peak is probably his true peak is probably the best, although I still think Mahomes is the best quarterback. But Josh Allen's true peak, which we saw last year in the playoffs, is probably the best quarterback. I'm still taking the Bengals on the road, which is going to be wild if both the Eagles and the Bills go down this week. I don't know if both of them can go down in terms of the football universe, the balance of it, but I think the football universe might fall out of balance. If both of them go down, the balance will be out of balance. I will say that. So
there will be no balance.
Yeah, I want the Bengals. Yeah, there won't be. It will be all tipped towards the Chiefs, I would believe. But I'm going to take the Bengals here as well. And I think it's going to be – there might be too much emotion for once. And sometimes you get too psyched up for a game. Now, there is a way to trump that. And if DeMar Hamlin is thrown through a table, then I think all bets are off. I think that actually even trumps the too much emotion card if DeMar Hamlin is thrown through a table. Then I would switch my pick. I truly would, but because that. So yeah, and it's interesting because last week we said just mail it in if you're the Dolphins, no chance, and they did have a chance. Well, I'll be honest. Because since it was the Dolphins, I wasn't expecting Josh Allen to have 3 turnovers. And I also thought that the Bills were going to cheat because there was multiple reports that they were going to bring out DeMar Hamlin for that game instead, which was later proved false because he didn't show up. And the Bills are going to cheat this week, and it's going to backfire, I believe. So – yeah, not a whole lot of in-game analysis in this one, except that Josh Allen has been turning it over a little bit. Because I know you said the Bengals' playoff defense is elite, and I agree it's good. But the Bills' offense is also elite and electric. I think the Bills' offense is more elite than the Bengals' playoff defense, and that's just my opinion. But I still think the Bengals are going to win. I think Joe Burrow is going to be the reason for it. So,
yeah, like I said, the quarterback, give me Joe Burrow. But since you picked the Bengals, we got to go ahead. I got to pick up games on you. The one game that we went head-to-head on last week, I lost. I took Tom Brady because I was like, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, give me Tom Brady. So I just said in the Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, give me Joe Burrow. So why not? I'm going to Bills. I'm switching to the Bills right now. I'm in Bills Mafia, but unfortunately, it seems whatever team I root for in the playoffs, they tend to lose in heartbreaking fashion. So to any Bills fans out there, I apologize because me joining Bills Mafia will probably ruin your team's chances of winning a Super Bowl this year. But hey, we're running it for it this week. Yeah, and if DeMar Hamlin, if he gets thrown through a table, that's basically like pressing the force win button in Madden. Like the Bengals have no chance at that point. They might as well just forfeit the game, pack it up, go home, because that would get the crowd absolutely hyped. And there might be multiple streakers on the field in this game, but it's in Buffalo. I hope it snows. I hope there's some bad weather in the forecast. But yeah, that's. And you said there was really no in-game analysis, and here's the in-game analysis. Both these teams are really good. There's a lot of talent on both sides. It's going to be a good game. That's the in-game analysis. You can't really say this is better than that, this is better than that, just because they're very evenly matched teams, and it's really just going to come down to pretty much who has the ball last, I would imagine. And there hasn't been any overtime games yet. And this would be a fun game to test out the new overtime rule in. So let's see what Roger and the script writers have cooked up. And then finally, before we end the preview for divisional round, let's cap it off with the Cowboys at 49ers for the Sunday night nightcap. And I know you're on the Cowboys train, but the 49ers are an absolute wagon right now. They're steamrolling teams to the ground. Like literally in just the snap of fingers, they can go from being down 3 points to being up by 3 touchdowns. It's insane how much they capitalize off the other team's mistakes. Like, that's literally the biggest thing. And this is how you beat the 49ers. You ready? You win the turnover battle. They showed a stat on the broadcast. I don't know if you remember seeing it, but during the regular season, the 49ers were 13-0 when they won the turnover battle or were even. They were 0-4 when they lost the turnover battle. That's it. Now they're 14-0 when they win or even with the turnover battle. So if you want to beat the 49ers, you got to create more turnovers. That's the key to victory in this one. And the Cowboys defense does have the ability to do that with Trayvon Diggs, Mr. Interception, and what's the guy's name? DeMarcus Lawrence on the defensive line and Micah Parsons. They have the ability to maybe get a strip sack or something, but this 49ers team has playmakers.
Don't forget Armstrong.
I think he got hurt last game, though. But they have playmakers at every single level. They have playmakers at the offensive line, the running back, the wide receiver, tight end. They have playmakers on the defensive line. They have maybe the best defensive lineman in the game, maybe the best linebacker in the game. And then they have playmakers at corner and defensive back. It's just this team's a wagon. The only thing is that Kyle Shanahan doesn't really have a good playoff resume as a head coach or as a assistant coach. He tends to have a blunder in the postseason, to say the least, whether it's in the Super Bowl, whether it's right before the Super Bowl. But you know who else doesn't have a good playoff resume? That's the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't made an NFC Championship game since 1995, and I think it continues to do that. The San Franciscoans, the San Joseans, whatever you want to call them, are going to be out in San Fran. And I'm not a big Cowboys guy. This is a verbal meme here. This is the Hitler versus Stalin for me. I do not like the Cowboys, and I absolutely despise the 49ers. But, hey, I'm joining the Cowboy Cam train in this week because I want the Cowboys to win, but I just can't pick them because the 49ers are a wagon. I don't see any other team coming out of the NFC but them.
Yeah. And, honestly, Luke, I feel like I'm being a little reckless with my picks here, but Cowboy Cam rides on. He does. I'm taking the Cowboys. I think,
oh my God.
And I'm taking the Cowboys. I'm doing a lot of picks this week off of quarterback play. I really am. I'm doing a lot of picks off quarterback play. I'm betting on the fact that if Dak attack Prescott, if he plays the same way he did last week, they win. I said the same thing about Daniel Jones, but I'm going to pick the Cowboys here. And like you said, they have the dudes to do it. They really do. So do the 49ers, don't get me wrong. Now, this is where I think the Cowboys are going to win, though. It's not Dak. Kyle Shanahan is going to scheme up a plan to stop Micah Parsons because he has to. He just has to. And I think he will scheme up a plan to stop him. Now, that still leaves DeMarcus Lawrence to wreak havoc as well. And that also leaves Leighton Vander Esch to fill gaps and even all of a sudden play good defense in the passing game. So I think they might be able to slow down Micah Parsons. But that defensive front seven is a unit. And I don't know if Brock Purdy has seen one as good as this yet. I'm not sure if he has yet. And I think that's where they win this game. I do think Dak has a good game because he has to have them win. But I think it's Dallas's front seven that wins them another playoff game. And Cowboy Cam is picking the Cowboys. So I don't know where all this came from, this Cowboys love at the end of the season. I think it's the pattern. And I really do think the Cowboys, they have one of the best rosters. They just do. But also the Eagles have one of the best rosters. We're down to the three of the four best rosters in the NFC. Eagles, 49ers, Cowboys, three best rosters. So that was one thing that was interesting in the AFC, actually. None of the away teams won. It was all home teams won. So we have a 1-4 2-3 matchup. So NFC obviously
Which
little
is
different.
beautiful.
Yeah, the Giants shake some things up. It is. No, it is beautiful. And we had the Cowboys shake things up. So I'm excited, though.
That
I
is
am
for
very
sure.
excited.
And it always feels like divisional week is they have some of the best matchups and some of the best games. Like last year's divisional round was probably the best weekend of football in history, at least in my history that I've been watching football. I don't know if you remember, but that was the Chiefs Bills game. Obviously, that
Yes,
that whole fiasco. That also had the Bucks Rams game where the Rams were up by a huge margin and the Bucks almost came back and won. You also had
Tom
the
Brady went
49ers
nuclear.
and Packers game. Yeah, you had the 49ers Packers game, which is sad for me, but that was also an incredibly good game.
Jimmy G masterclass.
And yeah, the score no touchdowns, but win the game. The classic Jimmy G stat. And then what was the other game? Oh, the Bengals Titans, I think, is what I'm thinking of. Which that was probably the worst game of them all, but it was also a fun upset. So yeah, interesting for sure. So hopefully we get another repeat of that weekend because that was insane. And I just want to shout out some guys in the trenches because especially in the NFC, we have some very fun in the trenches battles. Micah Parsons going against Trenton Williams, one of the best left tackles in the game. Nick Bosa going against Tyron Smith, one of the best right tackles in the game. And then on the NFC side, you have Dexter Lawrence. Now, this is an interesting one. Dexter Lawrence, the nose tackle, going against Jason Kelsey, the center for the Eagles. That's also a fun matchup, too. So the guys in the trenches, they don't get a lot of love, but these are some very interesting matchups that are going to be fun to watch this weekend. And that wraps it up.
Add one more to your card here, Luke.
Preview.
One more here to add to your card. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, is going to be going up against the injured Lane Johnson. So add that one onto your card as well. Kayvon Thibodeau
Either
has
that
had a
or
good
he's going
second
against
half
Landon.
of the season.
Yes.
Dickerson?
He's either going against Lane Johnson or Landon Dickerson, they're both Pro Bowlers, so it's a fun matchup for sure.
Yep.
And I'm excited to say the least. So we both have the Chiefs, and then we differ on every single game. So going head to head a lot. Before we get to Fantasy Corner, let's shout out the Blues. The Blues scored 5 goals in the second period, and they won 5-2. So a little fun stat there from the Blues,
and over
taking
6.
off a division rival in the Predators. We need that. And let's get to Fantasy Corner. All right, so I'll go first again.
Well, we all know who starts off first. Yep.
Exactly. Let's just keep the tradition. My stardom is I have 2 of them, but the first one is overs. So I already mentioned this, but the overs hit in 5 out of the 6 games. And literally, if Brett Maher would have just made 1 of the 4 extra points that he missed, we would have had an overs sweep. So maybe, I don't know what the gambling trend would be. Do you just keep riding the wave and keep betting the overs? Or do you think, maybe unders are due and bet the unders? Me personally, I'm getting on the over train. And then next week in Championship Sunday, that's when the unders are going to come into play. But that's one of them. And stay on the gambling topic. My other stardom is offshore sports gambling. So if you've been following my Twitter, you know I've been tweeting out like gambling picks for every night. I'll tweet out like 8 to 10 picks that I like. Last week I did really, really good. Yesterday I only did it on Wednesday and I went 2-7. So not a good week this week, but I've been looking for a way to actually like start making money off it. But I don't know. The only way to do it in Missouri, because it's not legal in Missouri, is to go through like an offshore account. So whether that's like in Bermuda or whether it's in the Bahamas, which a lot of them are in the Bahamas, all you have to do is you have to be 18. That's the only requirement. Because it's in the Bahamas, so they don't really care. They can't arrest you or anything for breaking the law. So it would be legal. However, the bank that I use my card with will not allow international purchases unless like I go in and write a personal statement for it. So this is a tough scene because I can't make a deposit, but maybe it's better. Maybe it's better that way, you know, because why do these casinos
Probably.
have money in the first place? Yeah, it might be better in the first place, but my stardom, they're still my stardom
Also,
because I'm trying to figure out a way.
Also, Bermuda wouldn't recommend, just because your money might disappear forever. Just Bermuda. So
yeah, well, it's actually funny because you think, oh, offshore gambling accounts, like these are unsafe, they're sketchy. Some of these are so big, like Bovada, Bet Online Sports. Those are the two biggest ones. Their reputation is like so big that they're almost as big as FanDuel or DraftKings. Like some of those, like they don't have laws to follow like inside their country, but they still have a reputation to keep, and so they're not going to like screw you out of money or anything. So it's actually kind of interesting how big this business is getting. And then my situm. This is a very weird situm because I didn't have one. I was literally writing the script like 5 minutes before the show, and I was like, I don't have a situm. And I was scrolling on my Snapchat stories, and I went through Livy Dunn's, and her foot is in a cast, so I would assume that she broke her foot or something. So my situm is Livy Dunn's foot. Probably not for what you were thinking. I wrote that down for, Cam, but it is broken or hurt or sprained or something. And so, you know what? Just situm anyone who's going to watch, because you know what? Last year I went and saw gymnastics meet simply because of her, and I actually had a great time there. So anyone who's going to watch Livy Dunn, because you probably won't be able to because she's hurt. So, and then my sleeper is Andy Reid. This is an Andy Reid masterclass setup against the Jags. The Chiefs are going to pull some candy shit in this game. It's as simple as that. Andy Reid is going to draw up a wild play that no one is going to see coming, and you know what? It's going to work out, and people are going to be like, how do the Chiefs do it? They're just trolling on this team. So my sleeper is watch out for an Andy Reid play.
And you're absolutely right, Luke, and you said this is set up so perfectly, and it is, because it's the Jaguars at the end of the day. It's the Jaguars defense. Not
in Arrowhead Stadium.
Great. Definitely not mediocre. I would say they're probably one notch below or above good. That is all Andy Reid needs to pull some wild stuff out of his hat in terms of crazy play calls. This, honestly, Luke, I know you said that you want to ride the waves for the overs. I think this might be our only shot at any overs this week, because once again you have Giants and Eagles interdivisional game. That's usually under. Cowboys 49ers, I think, is going to be a front seven game on both sides of the ball. That's probably under in terms, if you had to ask me. Maybe Bills, Bengals, but usually it seems like as of late, games that we expect the Bills to be high scoring are low scoring, and games that we expect to be low scoring with the Bills are high scoring. So it seems to be the opposite lately. So that's why I think this Jags-Chiefs one might go over, and I think it might be strictly only because of the Chiefs. I think this might be our only bad game this week is this Jags-Chiefs game. So that's my take on it. We'll see, though. Over to my fantasy corner. My stardom, Lucas, is Mike McCarthy. That face, Mike did it. And I'll say this, Luke. I don't know if he listened. I highly doubt he did. But his face on Monday night was not that fat. It wasn't that fat. And I think a big part of that had to do with it wasn't as hot as maybe people were expecting it to be. Me. In Tampa Bay, it wasn't that hot. I think it was like in the 50s or 40s. He had a really cool sweatshirt on that would have made him look extra fat if they lost, but they won convincingly.
Yes, definitely.
And Mike McCarthy, offensive playing calling coach. Obviously, Kellen Moore's the OC, but he's an offensive-minded coach. Their offense looks spectacular. We went from one of Dak's, probably his worst game of his NFL career, to his best, night and day. And the guys like Mike McCarthy. He's smiling so much. The players are smiling so much. The coaching staff loves Mike McCarthy right now. I think the only person that might not like Mike McCarthy that much is Jerry Jones. So we'll see what happens there at the end of the year. But I think everybody is riding with Mike, including me. As you know, I like Mike. I understand why you don't like Mike as much, but I like Mike. I honestly think Mike might have a few tricks up his sleeve. He is fat, and I love him for it, but I think he might have a few tricks up his sleeve. We've heard some other people talk about his watermelon history. I don't know if he'd pull out a watermelon for the playoffs, especially when they're winning. But I think he might have something up his very thick sleeves. So we're going to see. But my stardom is Mike McCarthy. And obviously I'm starting him here as well because I'm picking the Cowboys and based off their performance last week. So Mike McCarthy, I'm starting him. And my second stardom, Luke, is Carole Baskin's formerly dead husband. So according to multiple valid news sources, Carole Baskin's husband, if you may not, I'll take you down memory lane here. Back in 2020, I know that feels like forever ago. We're approaching 3 years when Tiger King was released. And I had to do a double take on this a couple hours ago when I was thinking about this. In 2020, if you watch the show, you were pretty convinced that this guy was dead. Carole Baskin's first husband, because not only did you think that he was either just dead or throughout the show, you were starting to be swayed to that Carole Baskin's fed his ass to the Tigers and let him kill him. You really felt that way towards the end of the show, especially. And it also just didn't seem likely that her husband would just jump ship completely because he had all these assets and all this money and he wasn't going to get to keep really any of it. And he had daughters who didn't get any of it. It all went to Carole. But as it turns out, Luke, Carole Baskin's formerly dead husband, pronounced dead in 2002, 21 years later, Luke, we have confirmed that Carole Baskin's dead husband is indeed alive in Costa Rica. So there you go. My stardom is Carole Baskin's dead husband for pulling that one off. So yeah.
Makes you wonder what Hitler story.
And it's it does make me maybe I might be able to throw in the Andes mountain range into my stardom as well, if you want to go down the Hitler road.
I don't want to go down that train. I regret saying that comment.
You don't want to go on Hitler's train?
That I don't think that worked out very well for many people. So I'm gonna have to pass.
No. Okay.
Going on the Hitler train did not work out
Maybe
well.
Another time.
But it just makes you wonder, like, if a guy this show was literally like the biggest show of 2020, of the pandemic, and everyone thought that this guy was fed to the Tigers, and he's just been hiding out in Costa Rica. It just, with all the media and stuff that happens today, it just makes you think, like, what someone could have done in 1945, where we thought that he killed himself. Who knows? We thought that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, but who knows at the same time. So, all right, we're getting off topic here. I'm going way down a path, but it makes you wonder. It just makes the brain think. Yeah.
And
makes the brain
good.
go.
We're supposed to think. My sit-em is Tusk the Fifth, Luke. Tusk the Fifth, if you don't know who that is Arkansas's Razorback hog. Their mascot that's not in a mascot costume, kind of like Smokey or Ooga. His ass died yesterday. So tough scene, but I'm sitting Tusk. And not only that, I was a little worried that Tusk died yesterday, that was going to channel Arkansas to a victory. No. Tusk's ass he died in vain. So maybe Tusk the 6th can bring a little more luck to Arkansas, but Tusk 5th, see ya, sleeping with the fishes. So I'm sitting them. My sleeper is once again, Luke, Isaiah Mosley, but on the flip side of the pillow this time. He's very much awake. He may have looked like a ghost in this one if you looked at his eyes and his face. He kind of looked like a dead man walking, which maybe that's part of the reason why he hasn't been playing in terms of emotional issues and stuff like that and personal issues, because he did look like a dead man walking, a ghost. But I'm putting him as more of a traditional sleeper pick here because he wasn't that bad last night, and he is a scoring threat every single time he touches the ball, and that's why he was so highly coveted, and he showed that in little glimpses last night. Even when he wasn't shooting the ball well at first, he just kept going, and it worked out, and he's pretty aggressive on defense. He is kind of a statue on offense when he doesn't have the ball, but they were at times doing that actually last night, as I noticed later on. But yeah, this is kind of me and my father, we kind of reference this as it's almost like you're picking up a free agent during the middle of the season that is pretty damn good, Luke. And if he continues to play,
Odell Beckham,
this could be a huge acquisition as we get into some more important basketball here, obviously, January, February, March.
You said that wrong.
And it's big for Mosley.
You were mistaken on that. It actually goes January, February. Izzo. We all know that.
Don't you dare say Izzo. I don't know if it's Izzo.
You knew it was coming.
That's why I was thinking it. Don't worry. I was thinking it, but I don't think it's Izzo this year. I just don't. But although they have been hot lately, they started off really slow, but they have been hot. I think they went on a 7-game winning streak the other day, but I think they lost again. So
they won today. They beat 23 ranked Rutgers. So
yeah, that's another thing. The Big 12 is so damn good. I know that's Big 10.
Big 10.
You were just talking about the Big 10, but the Big 12 is so damn good. But yeah, Isaiah Mosley, sleeper again, but this time for a good reason. So yeah, that's our fantasy corner. And Tusk is dead. Not Carole Baskin's husband.
And not rest in peace either. No offense to him.
No.
But. Yeah, we sure Tusk is dead? We sure that Tusk, he isn't like Logan Paul's pig that ended up on the side of the road? Are we sure about that? It's not the same situation?
No.
Like he's dead. It's confirmed.
This fat ass is dead.
Okay.
This fat ass is dead. Yeah, he's gone. Okay. He's like the queen.
Okay. All right, so we got an hour 22. We're a little short of the hour and a half mark. We could, if you wanted to, run a simulator. See if the Giants make the Super Bowl. And it would be a shorter simulator this week because we don't have to do Wild Card Weekend. So, you can start off with the Chiefs at I apologize. The Jaguars at the Chiefs, of course. And last week we didn't run the simulator on the air, but it was the Chiefs versus Seahawks in the Super Bowl. So as we can see, the simulator sometimes goes off track, and they just take something that is completely unrealistic, like the Seahawks going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, sometimes, or a Falcons Super Bowl.
Oh my God, it was a wild ride. But back when the 49ers were the 7th seed, they won a Super Bowl over the Ravens at one point. So who knows? Maybe the simulator saw the future. But anyway, the Chiefs do beat the Jags 42-30. that's a real score. I don't think that's going to happen, but I could see 42-30.
That's the over.
Yeah, no, that's definitely
That's the
the over.
over.
Yeah, 72 points. Oh, man. So now we have Bills-Bengals, and the Bills win 27-7. So sets up the Bills-Chiefs neutral site game. But before we get to that, we'll go to the NFC. So we got the Philadelphia Eagles playing at home, hosting the New York Giants. That team. I would imagine the Eagles win this. Yeah, 38-27 Eagles. I didn't really expect any other result. Then we have the Dallas Cowboys at the San Francisco 49ers. And I don't know about this result, Cam. The Cowboys do win. So Cowboy Cam moves on, but it's 13-7 is the final score.
Battle of the trenches,
I don't
and
see,
they got into Brock Purdy's head.
I don't see a scenario where this game only has 20 points scored. Like this is a shootout type of game. I'm getting the vibes. So, hey, whatever.
No,
the Eagles
I'm
and the Cowboys
you,
will play in the
under.
NFC Championship. Okay, well, whatever. I'm taking the over in this one big time. 49ers have scored like 30 points every single week. Oh, my God. No way. For the first time since 1995, the Cowboys will be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. 34-30 over the Eagles in the NFC Championship. Unreal. And now we have a dilemma because I have to pick a home team and an away team. But the Bills-Chiefs is at a neutral site. That doesn't change. Who's the home team? Who's the away team here? The Bills have the head-to-head, but the Chiefs technically were a half game above them. What's fair here?
I think the Chiefs are home.
Okay, since they're the 1 seed.
Yes.
Well, you know what we could do? We could do a scenario where they flip, like Chiefs at home, Bills away, and then Bills at home, Chiefs away, and until someone sweeps, we just keep going. I could try that. It might take a while.
Home.
Okay, so the Chiefs
at home. The stadium, Luke, is red. It's Chiefs at home.
All right, well, the Chiefs just won 45-27. Just for fun, let's see what happens if the Bills are at home. Okay, the Chiefs still win 34-27. So it didn't matter.
Thank you.
The Chiefs win no matter what. So it's the Chiefs in the Super Bowl versus the Cowboys. This might get ugly, but hey, the simulator, when they pick a team to go on a Cinderella run, they stick with them. So I don't know. Let's see what the simulator says. No. Chiefs win 24-13. So for back-to-back weeks, the Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions, according to the simulator. So if you're a betting man, maybe bet a Chiefs future. And then if you lose, then you can blame it on the simulator. But simulator has not been on crack as of recently, even though it has the Cowboys and the Seahawks going to Super Bowls in back-to-back weeks. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see with that. That's it. That was a short simulator. I like that.
You're a massive Cowboy.
I don't know. Right. It literally is just the Hitler versus Stalin meme for me. 49ers Cowboys. There's no winner in that scenario for me. Even though actually, no, there is a winner because the Packers beat the Cowboys earlier this year. So if the Cowboys go on a run, then we could say, oh, we beat the NFC champions.
Oh yeah, if you use the sicko adjacent win thing. Yeah, the Packers are pretty much your Super Bowl champ. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know, if you're not from, or if you're, there's Cowboys fans littered all over the country. They just are. It's like Notre Dame. It's like Lakers and Yankees fans. They're littered everywhere. And, Cowboys are not obviously one of my favorite teams either, and I actually love hating them. I have some family members that are Cowboys fans, and it was always so funny during the Tony Romo years when they would like lose on Thanksgiving. My favorite one actually was when they lost to Cam Newton on Thanksgiving. That was a super funny game. But I don't know. I find myself kind of pulling for these guys for once. And I also said this is probably the least I've hated a 49ers team in a really long time. So it's the battle of not the usual hate, but I'm rooting for the Cowboys this time around. It's weird. Now, if it's Cowboys Chiefs in the Super Bowl, that would be a real dilemma for me because
Like the
I feel
simulator
like that
predicted.
I'd have to ride. Like if yeah, exactly. I feel like I'd have to ride with the Cowboys just because the Cowboy Cam continuation if it gets that far. But I do find myself cheering for the Chiefs as of late over the past couple of years in the playoffs just because they are from Missouri and we do love Mahomes. So, yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So, yeah, that's
we have
our
some
show
breaking
pretty much.
news, but yeah, we have some breaking news. I can't say it right now, but I will tell you in a second when we quit recording this, but we'll announce the news on next week's show. So, yeah, that's the show.
Also,
Enjoy.
Ryan Joseph
We
got
just
an
hit the
offer from
100.
Mizzou.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, that was also a bonus sleeper that I had is, maybe just watch out at the tight end position at Mizzou. So anyway, that's our show. Enjoy a great weekend of football, and we'll see everyone next week.